Hi, today is Wednesday, March 6th, 2024, and I have 20 minutes to go before I start work. I arrived at the company, but I'm taking a break at the outside of our in-house cafeteria. I have 20 minutes to spare, so I'm going to read this interesting article to be more knowledgeable about the subject matter, and also to practice English by reading an English material each day of 20 to 30 minutes worth of reading. So here I am. This article is from North Dakota State University, and the title is Composting Animal Manures, a Guide to the Process and Management of Animal Manure Compost. NM 1478, revised February 2022. Publication file, Composting Animal Manures, a Guide to the Process and Management of Animal Manure Compost. By the way, I am a pure Korean. I work for Korea Telecom KT, #1 carrier, but we do also sell a compost machine called a CleanBox to our farming customers. So that's kind of a bit strange to you, but it's quite normal in Korea. We sell everything that can generate revenue. Composting and utilizing compost are advantageous tools in nutrient management plans that, when managed properly, reduce the potential to pollute and benefit crops. Lead author, Mary A. Kina, Extension Specialist, Livestock Environmental Management, Carrington Research Extension Center. Available in print from the NDSU Distribution Center. Contact your county NDSU Extension Office to request a printed copy. NDSU staff can order copies online. Login required. Odor. That's smell. Table of contents. Composting and utilizing compost are advantageous tools in nutrient management plans that, when managed properly, benefit crops and reduce the potential to pollute. Compost is a mixture of organic residues, manure, animal carcasses, straw, etc. Organic residues, right? Organic residues. You have to write it down. Yeah, from now on, I'm going to write it down on paper so that I can memorize well. Organic residues, manure, animal carcasses, straw, etc. that have been piled, mixed, and moistened to undergo thermophilic high heat 113 to 160 degrees Fahrenheit decomposition, right? Piled decomposition. That is called thermophilic, right? It is called thermophilic decomposition, moistened. This publication pertains to composting animal manures. For information on composting animal carcasses, refer to NDSU Extension publications, animal carcass disposal options, and easy steps for composting dead livestock. Composting requires routine introduction of oxygen, which stimulates aerobic microorganisms that feed on the organic components and convert the piled organic material to a fairly stable, nutrient-rich soil amendment. Lonnie and Blackshaw, 2003. Compost can be applied aerobic, right? Aerobic microorganisms. Organisms that feed on the organic components and convert the piled organic material to a fairly stable, nutrient-rich soil amendment. Compost can be applied to agricultural fields as a fertilizer, applied to improve soil structure, substituted for peat in horticulture, and used as a microbial additive to increase enzyme activities. Right? Peat in horticulture. Peat in horticulture. Soil structure. Interesting. It can be substituted for peat in horticulture and used as a microbial additive to increase enzyme activities, right? Enzyme activities. Improve soil structure. Fertilize agriculture. Compost benefits. The soil benefits greatly from the addition of compost. Addition of compost. Fertility, water holding capacity, bulk density, and biological properties are improved. Flavel and Murphy, 2006. Odors are reduced and fly eggs die due to the high temperatures occurring during microbial decomposition. High temperatures, right? Die, reduced. Odor, Lani et al., 2006. Et al. Means and kita 등등, right? And many other authors there besides Lani. Manure contains various life stages of internal parasites that can lead to severe health conditions in animals. Parasite eggs are quickly destroyed when temperatures reach 104 degrees Fahrenheit, which reduces the population and potential spread. Nielsen et al., 2007. Potential spread and potential spread. Certain weed seeds can pass through livestock and grow in manure applied on cropland. Few weed seeds remain viable in properly composted manure, which can reduce the amount of herbicide or tillage needed for weed control. Right? Herbicide or tillage needed for weed control. Right? Cropland. Ronnie and Blackshaw studied weed seed viability in composted livestock manures. After 21 days of composting downy brome, false cleavers, foxtail barley, scentless chamomile, wild mustard, and wild oat weed seeds did not germinate. Some weed seeds were more difficult to kill. Those were green foxtail, red root pigweed, round-leaved mallow, stinkweed, and wild buckwheat. After 42 days of composting, those weeds did not germinate. So if the composting lasts longer, the weeds don't germinate. The hard seed weeds did not germinate. West pile, middle pile, initial height, east pile. Figure 1, initial with windrows of bedded feedlot manure. The west pile cannot be seen in this picture, and note the initial height of the middle pile. Photo NDSU, Carrington Research Extension Center. Composting reduces the volume and density of manure approximately 50 to 65%. Figures 1 and 2. The decrease in volume reduces hauling costs. Wiederhold et al. Conducted a case study that compared the energy required of a 182 head feedlot operation that applied raw manure and composted manure to agricultural fields. They concluded that composting and applying livestock compost is more energy efficient than hauling raw manure. The decrease in volume and mass from composting reduced the hauling requirements enough to offset the energy required to compost. Hauling requirements. Density. The energy ratio of raw manure to composted manure was 150 to 1 energy units. Figure 2, composted bedded feedlot manure. Composted bedded feedlot manure. The west pile can be seen and the final height of the middle pile is greatly reduced. Photo NDSU Carrington Research Extension Center. Composting animal manures is an effective way to kill pathogens. Right? It is called pathogens. Gruwar 2006 studied and compared the length of time that pathogens lived in simulated composted dairy manure, simulated dairy manure pack, and simulated liquid dairy lagoon. Gruwar found that after 3 days of composting at 131 degrees Fahrenheit, Escherichia coli, Salmonella, and Listeria monocytogenes were not detected. Salmonella, right? Salmonella, dangerous E. coli virus. However, Salmonella still was detected after 28 days in the manure pack and lagoon simulations. Escherichia coli and Listeria monocytogenes were found in the lagoon after 14 days, and Listeria was not found after 7 days in the bedded pack simulations. Pathogens, site selection. Composting should take place on an area that drains well, but where runoff or leachate will not reach waters of the state. Leachate, what is leachate, right? A runoff. Let's look up the word leachate. Never heard of the word because I work for Korea Telecom KT, #1 carrier in Korea. I am very proud of my company. I wish to have overseas assignment though. Leachate is any liquid that in the course of passing through matter extracts soluble and suspended solids or any other component of the material through which it has passed. Leach, like a leech, right? The animal leech. I hate leeches. A solution resulting from leaching. I would like to...
Leachate.
Leachate, right? Leachate. Composting should take place on an area that drains well. That's good word, drains well. You need to have your own garden that drains well. But where runoff or leachate will not reach waters of the state. The pad ideally should drain into a containment pond. That's another good word. Gong, right? Gong in Chinese, gong. Containment pond. Yeah, I'm learning Chinese too. The site may not be located along surface waters of the state. On soil textures coarser than a sandy loam or within a floodplain. Ideal areas are well drained, have slopes of 2 to 4%, consistent of concrete or packed soil or gravel, and drain into a containment pond. Packed soil, consistent of concrete, packed soil, gravel. Windrows should be constructed parallel to the slope. Windrows. This prevents the windrow from blocking runoff and allows implement access to the pad. Implement, usually it's a verb, but here it looks like an adjective. Slopes exceeding 6% may be prone to erosion and can cause pad issues. What is windrows? I'll look it up later. I can only imagine the meaning of the word by looking at the photos. Composting manure process. The microorganisms responsible for composting are indigenous to manures. By properly managing compost, the producer facilitates these composing microbes. The manure must be piled. The carbon to nitrogen CN ratio should be 3:1. 50% of the pore space should contain water, and the pile must be aerobic, having oxygen. Rink et al. 1992. Manure usually is piled into a windrow. The windrow dimensions are dictated by the length of the pad and size of the turning implement. After a day or two, the pile should reach temperatures in excess of 120 degrees Fahrenheit. Figures 3 and 6. Let's look up the pronunciation of windrows, just in case, right? I know wind.
Windrow.
Windrows.
Windrow.
Windrows. Windrows. Row.
Windrow. Windrow.
Windrows. 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 Windrows.
Windrow.
Windrows. I think windrows is more correct pronunciation, man. Manure usually is piled into a windrow. A windrow dimensions are dictated by the length of the pad and size of the turning implement. After a day or two, the pile should reach temperatures in excess of 120 degrees Fahrenheit, figures 3 and 6. The CN ratio in a composting pile needs to range from 20:1, 20 parts of carbon for every part of nitrogen, to 40:1, 40 parts of carbon for every part of nitrogen. Decomposing microorganisms typically have a CN ratio of 5:1 to 10:1. The CN ratio needs to be higher because approximately 50% of the metabolized carbon is released as carbon dioxide, Miller 1996. Nitrogen can be lost when too much CN ratio below 20:1 is present, and the pile might smell of volatilizing ammonia. Adding carbon straw, corn stalks, or wood chips, wood shapes, right? Wood chips, corn stalks. Too much carbon CN ratio, more than 40:1, in a compost pile can immobilize nitrogen and slows the composting process. Composting materials CN ratio varies greatly. Differences in manure can vary because of differences in species, feeding rations, bedding practices, climate, storage facility, etc. The CN ratio of bulking materials of plant origin varies greatly as well, and for the same reasons as manures. Table 1 outlines CN ratios that various composting materials process. Figure 4 and Table 2 illustrate the process of determining the CN ratio. Water management is important in compost because 40 to 65% of the pore space in composting materials should have water. Measuring devices can be used to monitor the moisture, but they can be costly. One way to test moisture is the simple hand test called the wet rag test. Squeeze the compost and feel the moisture. I will stop here and come back later because I have to work now. I have a wonderful Wednesday. So I stopped here. I'm going to repeat the sentence one more time. And I am about to go home now. One way to test moisture is the simple hand test called the wet rag test. Squeeze the compost and feel for moisture. Maybe groping. If water drips out, then it is too wet. But if the compost feels like a wrung out wet rag, the compost has sufficient amounts of moisture. Rink et al. 1992. Wrung out, right? Wrung out wet rag. Too wet if the water drips out. Remember to wash your hands after working with the compost. Figure 3. Average temperatures of a straw-bedded beef feedlot manure compost pile. The manure was piled into windrows on May 8th. The pile was turned on May 30th, June 13th, June 23rd, and July 29th. The pile did not pass the wet rag test on June 11th and was watered the same day. This pile may be piled for curing after August 4th. Okay, so this pile may be repiled is more correct expression for curing after August 4th. Moisture usually is not an issue in central and eastern North Dakota. However, water may have to be added in western North Dakota or during prolonged dry events. Some turners have water tanks plumbed into nozzles that add water while turning. Water also may be added by spraying it directly on the windrow. Figure 5. Okay, I'll check out figure 5, right? Watering compost at the Carrington Research Extension Center during an extremely dry period. Photo, NDSU Carrington Research Extension Center. Interesting. It's just not nozzles, it's more like pouring from fire engine. Water may have to be added. Some turners have water tanks, turners plumbed into nozzles that add water while turning. Turners. Spraying it directly on the windrow. The microorganisms that transform manure into compost require oxygen for their energy-driving chemical reactions. Less than 5% of oxygen within the pore space will turn the pile anaerobic without oxygen. Anaerobic may create a rotten egg smell and will slow the composting process. Aerobic conditions can be replenished by turning the pile. Rink et al. 1992. Aerobic conditions can be replenished by turning the pile. Table 1. Carbon to nitrogen ratio of common composting materials. CN ratio, cattle manure, 19:1. Material, poultry carcass, CN ratio, 4:1. Cattle carcass, CN ratio, 10:1. Material, sawdust, CN ratio 4:2 to 1, corn silage 40 to 1, sheep manure 16 to 1, corn stock 68 to 1, swine carcass 14 to 1, dairy manure 20 to 1, swine manure 12 to 1, grass clippings 17 to 1, turkey litter 16 to 1, horse manure 30 to 1, wheat straw 1 to 7 to 1, leaves 54 to 1, wood chips 600 to 1. Straw, CN, beef manure. An example of using the Pearson square method for proper compost mixture determination. Pearson square procedure: 1 is the CN ratio of typical straw, 2 is the CN ratio of typical beef manure, 3 is the difference of straw and beef manure, 4 is the desired CN ratio, 5 is the difference of beef manure CN ratio and desired CN ratio. Multiplying this value by 100 reveals that 16.67% of straw is needed for the desired CN ratio. 6 is the difference of straw CN ratio and desired CN ratio. Multiplying this value by 100 reveals that 83.33% of manure is needed for the desired CN ratio. Monitoring the internal temperature within a probe-type thermometer can indicate when to turn the windrow. Figure 6. To efficiently compost manure, turn the windrow when the internal temperature drops below 120 degrees Fahrenheit. After 5 to 6 turns, the manure should be composted. So you have to turn the windrow 6 to 5 times. After 5 to 6 turns, temperatures should be taken at various locations and depths. According to Michel, 2009, compost windrows can be turned every 10 days or 2 weeks. This can minimize labor while creating a good quality product. Organic operations must meet certain temperature and turning frequency requirements. The Organic Materials Review Institute requires compost made from plant and animal materials to reach and maintain temperatures of 131 to 170 degrees Fahrenheit for 15 days, and piles to be turned at least 5 times during that 15-day period. Photo credit NDSU, Carrington Research. Table 2, worksheet to determine CN ratio mixture of compost materials. Piles may exceed 160 degrees Fahrenheit, which can destroy the beneficial microbes, causing a decline in microbial activity and slowing the process. If this occurs, chances are the piles have too much nitrogen. Adding carbon, making the piles smaller, and digging holes in the pile are ways of cooling the pile. Carpenter Box, 1999. Figure 6. 24 hours after raw straw-bedded feedlot manure was piled in early May, temperatures already have reached 132 degrees Fahrenheit. Photo, NDSU Carrington Research Extension Center. Feedlot manure. What is feedlot? Straw-bedded feedlot manure. What is a feedlot? Feedlot. We know what the feed is and we know what the lot is, but what is a feedlot, man? A feedlot or feed yard is a type of animal feeding operation which is used in intensive animal farming, notably beef cattle, but also swine, horses, sheep, turkeys, chickens, or ducks. Prior to slaughter, large beef feedlots are called concentrated animal feeding operations. in the United States, right? Animal feeding operation, AFO. Okay, so feedlot is something different, right? Compost aeration. We're almost there, but it's a long article, man. Very, very long. Turning manure is essential to composting. Manure turning compost incorporates oxygen into the system, homogenizes the pile, and breaks up clumps. Turning allows more contact of manure with microbes. Producers have various ways to turn the pile. The two most common methods for turning compost are with a windrow turner, figure 7, or bucket tractor. Where's 7? So, figure 6, 24 hours after raw straw-bedded feedlot manure was piled in early May, temperatures already have reached 132 degrees. Where's a photo 7? No photo 7? No figure 7, I think, or bucket tractor. Turners may be self-propelled or attached to a tractor or skid steer. Turners mix the compost by an auger, a rotary drum with flails, or an elevating conveyor, flails, 홍두깨, right? Flails. You flail about in the water. Some turners require power from the attached implement, while others are self-powered. Turners require power from the attached implement. So that's what the implement is, while others are self-powered. Producers have many factors to consider when selecting a turner. Determining the amount of manure to turn is a good starting point. That's another good word to remember. Is a good starting point. Oh man, I'm getting hungry. 我饿了 in Chinese, right? 我饿了. I'm fucking hungry, man. The amount of manure to turn is a good starting point. Bucket tractors or skid steers work well for small operations or testing if compost fits into your operation. However, turner implements work better for larger operations. Wait a minute. Bucket tractors or skid steers work well for small operations or testing. If compost fits into your operation. However, turner implements work better for large operations. Turners range in various sizes from 6 feet wide to as much as 20 feet wide. A 10-foot wide turner may turn 1,500 yards per hour, while a 14-foot turner may turn as much as 2,600 yards per hour. Implements that run a turner must have a creeper gear and go as slowly as 20 feet per minute. Turning implements. I'm a mechanical engineering student. I was, but I've never encountered the word implements in those texts or in the lectures. Turning becomes easier throughout the composting process. After the heating cycles have subsided, the compost usually is piled for storage while awaiting field applications. This month-long or longer process is known as curing. Applying immature compost can cause issues that include malodors, insect swarms, nitrogen immobilization, and phytotoxicity. Mether et al., 1993, Franco et al., 2005, Steger et al., 2007. Compost maturity is strongly related to microbial activity during the composting process. Producers have many options to assess compost maturity. Options include sending samples to laboratories, checking pile temperatures to ensure that the pile is near the ambient temperature, and kits that give colorimetric readings of carbon dioxide and ammonia emissions. Nutrient management of compost. Manure composts. What happened? Wow, what happened? I didn't do anything, man. But you just shut yourself on me? That's bullshit, right? That's absurd. Let's go. And how can animal product? This is it. So it shuts itself on me. That's pretty bad for automatic internet article, right? Producers have many factors to consider, right? Turnover's range becomes easier throughout the heat composting process. After the heating cycles have subsided, compost usually is piled for storage. Curing, apply mature compost. Compost maturity is strongly related to microbial activity during the composting process. Producers have many options to assess compost maturity. Options include sending samples to laboratories, checking pile temperatures to ensure that the pile is near the ambient temperature, and kits that give colorimetric readings of carbon dioxide and ammonia emissions. Nutrient management of compost. Mature composts not only improve soil physical and chemical characteristics, they also are a good source of fertilizer for crop production. However, much of the nitrogen is tied up in complex organic compounds, immobilized, and is not immediately ready for plant uptake, whereas commercial fertilizers are predominantly plant available. Cropland soils and compost should be tested for nutrients. Nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium tend to be the most limiting nutrients required by crops. Sion and Thompson, 2006. Applications, right? It doesn't have nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium tend to be the most limiting nutrients. Applications of compost must be based on crop needs. A manure application should be based on crop nutrient needs. North Dakota Department of Environmental Quality 2021. Most crops have a nitrogen to phosphorus NP ratio of 7:1 or 10:1, whereas composted manure commonly has NP ratio of 1:2. Because of this, nutrient management plans may need to be based upon phosphorus management. This change in management can prevent nutrient loading and high levels of phosphorus that can accumulate when not properly managed and monitored. Spargo et al. 2006. So here, right, cropland soils and compost should be tested for nutrients. Nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium tend to be the most limiting nutrients. Sampling and testing soil for nutrients can alleviate nutrient loading. Refer to NDSU extension publications, North Dakota fertilizer recommendation tables and equations, SF8A2, soil sampling as a basis for fertilizer application, SF990, for more information on soil sampling and nutrient requirements. Crop and environmental benefits may not occur if the finished composted product is not tested and properly applied. Once cured, compost samples should be taken within the pile at various points and mixed thoroughly to account for variability. Samples should be tested as soon as possible or kept in cold storage until they can be sent to a laboratory for analysis. Refer to NDSU Extension publication, Solid Manure Sampling for Nutrient Management Planning, NM 1259, for more sampling methods and interpretation of test results. Keep in mind that many testing labs treat compost nutrient availability as if it were raw manure, approximately 50% nitrogen, 80% phosphorus, and 90% potassium of the total nutrients are plant available in the first growing season. Compost nutrient availability is different, and producers need to account for the differences. This difference is due to the increased stability of compost. Eggball and Power 1999 found in a 4-year study that 15% of the total nitrogen in beef feedlot compost was plant available in the first year, and 8% of the nitrogen was mineralized the second year. When et al. 1999 found in a 2-year study that 30% to 70% of the total phosphorus in composted livestock manure was mineralized the first and second year, respectively. First and second year, right? A greenhouse, here, year is not a plural, it's a singular, right? The first year and second year, respectively. A greenhouse study conducted by Bartol et al. 2004 showed that 31% of the total potassium in compost is mineralized. Because of immobilization and the possibility of nutrient loading, compost fertilizer applications may need to be supplemented with conventional fertilizers. Eggball and Power 1999 tested different management strategies, compost applications based on nitrogen or phosphorus and conventional fertilizer. They found that managing composts based on phosphorus and supplementing the other nutrient requirements with conventional fertilizers yielded equal or greater corn fields. Compost should be applied with a calibrated spreader. This ensures that the proper amount of nutrients is applied and also lessens the chance of polluting. Manure spreaders can be calibrated various ways. Refer to NDSU Extension publication, Manure Spreader Calibration for Nutrient Management Planning, NM 1418 for spreader calibration procedures. Summary: manure needs to be managed properly to be composted properly. Carbon-nitrogen ratios should be about 30:1. Moisture content should be around 50%. And oxygen needs to be incorporated routinely by turning. This ensures that the pile will heat and convert to compost effectively. Surface and groundwater proximity are important for compost site selection. The compost site needs to be in an area not prone to contamination of groundwater by leaching or where leachate can run off to surface water. Leachate, right, by leaching. Instead of viewing manure as a waste, producers can begin to view it as a product that can be substituted for commercial fertilizer and as an economic resource. Composting is an effective manure management tool that reduces volume, kills pathogens, kills parasites, and reduces weed seeds, and also improves soil health and fertility. However, soil and compost should be tested for nutrients. Applying compost with a calibrated spreader ensures that crop yield goals will be met and reduces the chance of pollution. Some volume, right? Applying compost with a calibrated spreader ensures that crop yield goals. Calibrated spreader, right? Spreader is like a butter on your bun. So spread here is like adding nitrogen, phosphorus, and other elements, nutrients into the piles, windrows, right? The volume reduction of composting manure can save livestock owners money and provide crop producers with a more uniform fertilizer than fresh manure. We have many references, right? And NDSU, right, is a Fargo, North Dakota. North Dakota State University is distinctive as a student-focused land-grant research university. NDSU Agricultural Affairs educates students with interests in agriculture, food systems, and natural resources, fosters communities through partnerships that educate the public, provides creative, cost-effective solutions to current problems, and pursues fundamental and applied research to help shape a better world. North Dakota State University, an equal opportunity affirmative action institution. Privacy statement, non-discrimination statement. I think the affirmative actions will be gone soon because of the Supreme Court ruled against it, I think. Anyway, thanks for listening, and it is have a great Wednesday, wherever you are. Thank you for listening, for your precious time. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.